What's up, guys? It's your boy, the man, the myth, the legend, Pickdroppers, back at it again with an NFL post video. I'm going to be going over all the games from Week 3 and telling you guys all my thoughts on Week 3's games and matchups. Now, the first game I have on my list is Houston, New England. Now, this was a very interesting game. I felt like New England was going to lose coming into it, and I was very surprised when New England was able to get the win this game, because I thought Houston was for sure going to win, and New England just outplayed Houston from the quarterback position, and Houston just wasn't able to score, and their defense wasn't able to stop a third-string running back. Now, I really don't know what New England's going to do next week, because I'm pretty sure Brissett is hurt, but that would be very interesting to see. But New England just outplayed Houston, especially on the running game. That was a big component for New England winning the game. Another big thing was Houston turned the ball over 3 times and New England turned it over 0 times. Now the next game I have on this list is Washington versus the Giants. Now this was definitely a battle between Odell and Josh Norman, and I feel like Josh Norman lost the battle. I feel like Odell had a very good game, got over 120 yards, and Eli Manning had a great game, throwing for 350 yards, and just all around the Giants had a good game. But that wasn't enough. The Redskins had a really good game, and they were clicking on all sides of the ball, on defense and on offense. And the big thing for Washington this past week was cutting down on penalties. They didn't do it totally. The Giants had 11 penalties for 128 yards. The Redskins had 8 penalties for 70 yards. And that's 58 yards difference. That definitely comes up big. And that was definitely huge for the game in deciding the game. Washington also outclocked the Giants, and had the ball for longer in the game. So that was also huge. And the next game I have on this list is Arizona versus Buffalo. Now, Buffalo had a great game, and Arizona, I don't even know what happened. They just played, they didn't do enough on the ground. They weren't throwing it very well, and they started out losing 17-0 against Buffalo, and that's very, very sad. And Arizona was able to get some points on the board before half, but it just wasn't enough. Carson Palmer only completed 52% of his passes, and Arizona turned the ball over for 5 times, and Buffalo only turned it over once, which definitely was huge in the outcome of the game. And I just feel like Buffalo just really outplayed it. Not really so much on the passing game, but definitely on the rushing game, and definitely on defense. So that was definitely big. Now, the next game I have on my list is Pittsburgh, Philadelphia. I'm actually not going to be going over that game because Philadelphia, I did that on Sunday. I went over the game. And each Sunday I will be going over the game, or each Sunday I will be going over the Steelers game, unless it happens Sunday night or Monday night, and I haven't yet watched it. So yeah. Now the next game I have on this list is Denver, Cincinnati. Now Denver definitely played a very good game. It started out, Cincinnati was looking good. Denver also was looking good, but Denver was just able to score more points, and they just outplayed them. And Trevor Siemian outplayed Andy Dalton, threw for way more yards than Andy Dalton. Although Cincinnati had way more rushing yards, the passing game definitely went to Denver, and Denver's defense definitely played really good. That's for sure. And Denver was also able to get more sacks on Cincinnati, which was huge. Cincinnati got 4 more penalties than Denver. Now, the next game I have on this list is Detroit, Green Bay. Now, Detroit played very well this year. Detroit was up a couple of times. Detroit was never up. Green Bay was up a good amount a couple of times. But Detroit was able to come back. Matthew Stafford had an amazing game, throwing for almost 400 yards. Aaron Rodgers had a pretty bad game, only throwing for just over 200 yards, but Eddie Lacy definitely helped getting over 100 yards rushing, and Jordy Nelson got almost half of Aaron Rodgers' passing yards with 101 yards. And Marvin Jones had an amazing game. The only bad thing for Detroit was their running game. The running game played really bad. Now, the defense for Green Bay definitely needs to step it up in the upcoming weeks, but they were able to hold them off enough for Green Bay to get the win. Now, the next game I have on this list is Oakland, Tennessee. Now, this was a pretty boring game to watch. Oakland was up 17-3 going into the third, and Tennessee got a touchdown, and then the game just stalled off from there. And both quarterbacks had a mediocre to bad game, but DeMarco Murray definitely won the rushing part of the game. That was definitely huge. And even though Oakland won, they did not win the time of possession, and they had the same amount of sacks, so they're definitely going to want to work on that for upcoming weeks. But Tennessee did lose the turnover battle, which was huge for Oakland winning the game. That's for sure. Now, the next game I have on this list is Cleveland, Miami. Now, this was a game of just bad quarterbacking by Miami. Miami's quarterback, Ryan Tannehill, had a really, really bad game. And he almost got outplayed by a guy named Cody Kessler. It was very, very sad game to watch. And it's very sad that Cleveland wasn't able to get the win. Terrell Pryor had a really good game receiving and an okay game passing. The Dolphins just got the last touchdown. The game was pretty much even the whole game. Cleveland won time of possession, but they had more penalties. Cleveland won turnover battle, but they got less sacks. It was just a very interesting game to watch. Miami just barely won the game. Now, the next game I have on this list is Minnesota, Carolina. Now, this was a very interesting game, definitely a defensive game. And Minnesota was able to get 8 sacks on Cam Newton. And Carolina turned the ball over 3 times. And that basically says it. Cam Newton threw for 3 picks. And the offense, especially the running game on both sides, was pretty much stale. Passing game was And Sam Bradford didn't really have a good game, but they were still able to put up 22 points. And that was definitely big. And Minnesota also was able to get a safety on Carolina, which also definitely helped. Minnesota just outplayed Carolina. And that was definitely a surprise to me. Now, the next game I have on this list is Baltimore, Jacksonville. Now, Baltimore won the game by 2 points, and Baltimore got pretty lucky when they blocked that kick. And I'm very surprised that Jacksonville didn't win this game. I feel like they had a better team. But a huge reason why Jacksonville won this game is because Blake Bortles was the #1 rusher on his team with 17 yards. TJ Yeldon had 17 yards. Chris Ivory had 14 yards on 12 rushes. If you guys can't do the math, that's an average of 1.2 yards per rush. That's embarrassingly bad. That's horrible for a running back. And Jacksonville just got outplayed. They weren't able to do anything on the run game. It was definitely a very close game late, but Baltimore just got the last laugh and just was able to score last. Now, the next game I have on this list is Seattle, San Francisco. Now, this was a big game for Seattle to show that they could still put up points, and they were able to put up 37 points. Pretty sure only 30 with Russell Wilson, though, because Boykin did have to come in because Russell Wilson got hurt. That will definitely be big for the upcoming weeks. But hopefully Doug Baldwin could still have a big game because he is on my fantasy team. But Doug Baldwin had a huge game. And Seattle just played really well on defense and just was able to outplay San Francisco. And San Francisco just wasn't able to stop Seattle. Seattle's defense was able to stop Blaine Gabbert. He was only able to throw for 119 yards. And it was just a great all-around game by Seattle. Now, the next game I have on this list is Los Angeles, Tampa Bay. Now, Los Angeles definitely proved that they are a team to be reckoned with a huge offensive showing. Even though it didn't show in the stats, Los Angeles definitely had a huge offensive showing, and both defenses didn't play too well. I guess when you score almost 70 points, that shouldn't be expected, but both defense, I thought the Los Angeles' defense was going to play pretty good, but they didn't. Jameis Winston actually threw for over 400 yards, and Case Keenum threw for less than 200. But Todd Gurley was able to come in clutch a couple of times, and St. Louis pinned the Bucs down inside their 20 a lot. Johnny Hecker definitely was huge in this victory, and that was just probably the deciding factor of the game. I'm really excited to see where Los Angeles is able to go. Now, the next game I have on this list is San Diego, Indianapolis. Now, Indianapolis did come out with the clutch victory late in the game, and I was really surprised that Indianapolis won this game. I definitely thought that the Chargers were going to win this game, but they just weren't able to get enough going on offense or on defense, and they just got outplayed. Indianapolis threw for a touchdown very late in the game to T.Y. Hilton, 63 yards, and it was game after that. And I'm surprised that they weren't able to do something very good, and the Chargers, by that, they weren't able to do something very good in the run game. Melvin Gordon only got 35 yards against an Indianapolis defense. That's not that good. And he did get a touchdown, but he had 16 rushes for only 35 yards. Phillip Rivers definitely had a pretty good game, same as Andrew Luck, throwing for 330 and 331 yards respectively. And the defensives played very well. Oh my God, I don't know what happened there. But the defensives definitely played very well. Indianapolis only converted 2 out of 9 of their third downs, and the Chargers were only able to convert 4 out of 11 of the third downs. That was definitely big, but the Chargers just had one more turnover that cost them the game. Now, the next game I have on this list is Kansas City versus the Jets. Now, the Jets played horrible in this game, throwing and passing-wise, or throwing and rushing-wise. Not throwing and passing, that doesn't make any sense. The Chiefs were able to get 8 turnovers, and Ryan Fitzpatrick threw for 6 interceptions. Yes, that's correct. 6 interceptions. He had a horrible day. Ryan Fitzpatrick just had a horrible game. Kansas City's defense was definitely the reason why they won this game. Alex Smith had an okay game. Kansas City's definitely going to be looking forward to when Jamal Charles comes back. And Kansas City just outplayed the Jets by a fair amount. And that was definitely huge, and the reason why the Jets won this game, or the Jets lost this game. Now, the next game I have on this list is Chicago-Dallas. Now, this was the Sunday night game, and Dallas just played a really, really good game. Dak Prescott played really well, and that was basically the reason why they won. Dak Prescott threw for almost 250 yards, and then Ezekiel Elliott had a huge game rushing for almost 150 yards, and he didn't even fumble once. And Brian Hoyer had an okay game, throwing for 317 yards, but it just wasn't enough, and the rushing game just wasn't there. And Dallas just played better defense than Chicago. That's the reason why Dallas won the game. Now, the next and final game I have on this list is Atlanta versus New Orleans. Now, New Orleans just got outplayed on defense, and New Orleans just has horrible defense. I feel so bad for Drew Brees. Drew Brees had a really good game, almost throwing for 400 yards, and the running game definitely goes to Atlanta, going for almost 150 yards. But Devontae Freeman did lead them in rushing and receiving. It might be a concern for the upcoming weeks, but Desmond Trufant had a really good game, shutting down Marcus Colston, who was only able to get Marcus Colston. No, he wasn't even able to do anything. He got 0 receiving yards. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, write a comment down below on what you would like to see next. It's your boy Pickdroppers, and I'm out. Peace!